Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Walgie again from Astral Connections, and here with me I have Reverend Mary Elizabeth Hoffman. She's an oracle, a psychic, a healer, an author. What else is Mary that I forgot to mention? Welcome, Mary.
Oh, dowser, a little bit of everything. Thank you.
A dowser, a little bit of everything. Yeah, she's given many workshops here on many different subjects, on astrology, on dowsing, on cat beings.
Mm-hmm.
Anything I forgot? On astrology, relationships, that's
Yeah.
right.
So, yeah.
So Mary, tell us something about yourself. Tell us about your life before
Oh.
you became all those things, or were you always those things?
I think I must have been born with it. At least that's what my grandfather tells me anyway.
Tell us about your grandfather.
Yeah, he was Pentecostal holiness.
Okay.
Of course, that was back in the days when holy rollers were the big thing, you know,
Right.
and they believed in laying on of hands and speaking in tongues and prophecy. So,
Laying on of hands, speaking in tongues, and prophecy.
Yeah,
Can you
it was-
define those a little bit for these guys?
well, laying on of hands deals with a form of healing.
Okay.
Okay. Speaking in tongues basically is bringing through alternate languages, alternate messages from other dimensions and other places, other beings and other spirits. And the prophecy then is being an oracle or knowing what's coming, having an idea of, you know, things that are going to happen in the near or distant future.
Mm-hmm.
And he seemed to believe that I had the gift. So by the time I was 3, he was carrying me on his shoulders to the Pentecostal Holiness Church and would set me up on an orange crate and go, do your thing. So, and I did. I thought everybody did that. I thought it was normal till when he
So
had
what's
his...
do your thing?
Yeah, well, it was, there would be times I would speak in tongues. There would be times I would do healings. There would be times I would, you know, prophesy of things that were going to happen. People would come up and they would stand in front of me. And then I would give them messages or do healing on them, whatever they needed, you know,
Right.
whatever was needed at the time.
How old were you at the time?
Started out doing it at the age of 3
Nice.
because I was reading books and speaking in sentences at 3. I was kind of a precocious kid.
Okay.
You know, so drove my parents crazy. So by the time my grandfather had his stroke when I was 8, my parents thought I was really into church and religion.
Right.
So they thought they would put me in, you know, a different church. So they put me in a Baptist church. Well, Baptists don't believe in laying on of hands and speaking in tongues and prophecy.
Oh.
So I began realizing that they thought I was a bad person. So I went through a bit of an identity crisis around that time, going, okay, am I a good person or am I a bad person? And so luckily my teachings from my grandfather stuck with me. And, you know, he told me, he said, you don't need to be in a church on Sunday, you just need to be out in nature, you know, and just connect with the truth of what's going on with life.
Right.
And your guides and guardian angels will be there to take care of you. So
tell us about your first meeting with your guardian angels and
I think
guides.
they were there all the time. When I was even at the age of 3 and 4 and 5, I was talking to them. And back in those days, I called them Gaka. I didn't know what they were. They were, you know, 9 to 12 feet tall. And
9 to 12 feet tall.
yeah, and I was always looking at the ceiling, and I was a little still I'm a little short thing, you know. So I would talk to these beings, and they would talk back, and, you know, my parents really thought I was very strange, you know, but I was their first child, so they didn't, you know, what to do with me. So my grandfather kind of took care of
over,
things.
yeah.
So I talked to them back then, and they guided me and kept me out of trouble and kept me from falling out of windows and killing myself.
Can you
And
describe them?
they
Other than
were
they're
tall
really
and
tall?
slender and had cat-looking faces
Wow.
and funny whiskers. And
Sounds like
beautiful,
you're
loving
describing
eyes.
Hathors.
Very loving. Yes, that's exactly what they looked like. They looked like Hathors, you know. But I didn't know what to call them back then.
Right.
You know, I had never heard of Hathors back then. So, but they were a part of the love, the connection, my purpose for being here, I think. It was like they gave me a sense of, okay, it's okay to stay on this planet. It's crazy and weird and painful as it can be. It's okay to stay here, you know. So, and I really enjoyed my conversations with them. My grandmother was very much into talking to plants. And so she would talk to the fairies and the elves and the gnomes. So she taught me that side of it,
Right.
where my grandfather taught me more the cosmic, off the planet side of it.
Right.
So I got a good grounding in both, which was really good, you know. So,
So at what point was it a reality for you, and then you discovered the intellectual side of things?
well, I think when I hit about 12 or 13, the left brain kicked in.
Yeah, I was thinking.
It's like,
and
you
then
know,
right
okay,
go to
I need
left,
to, I need
which is
to,
all
I
right.
need to prove some of this stuff. You know, this is crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I began doing a lot of reading and research. Studied a lot of mythology, a lot of archaeology, a lot of astronomy, some astrology, but mostly a lot of history too, looking at the ancient texts. And I was reading a lot of that stuff, you know, even as a young teenager, which is not usual. You know,
Yeah.
I was considered rather weird in those days. So
So what happens when you open a book and you see a being that looks identical to the beings you saw?
yeah, well, it was
In your
actually
visions.
where I discovered it. I had connected with Tom Kenyon and had gone to Sedona, Arizona to do a workshop with him. And this was one of his first Hathor
When was
workshops.
this?
Oh, this was, God, this had to have been back in I would say 84, 85, somewhere
Wow,
along in
okay.
there, you know. It's before I went to Egypt
Mm-hmm.
and made the connection with him, and it was like, oh, these are the beings I've been talking to all these years since I was a very little girl.
Wow.
You know, it was like, hello, you're back again. This is great, you know. So I reconnected with them through that, and then have had the chance to do 7 trips to Egypt and really make connection with them over there, which was great fun.
Tell us about Egypt.
Yeah, well, I met all kinds of cat gods and goddesses over there. I didn't realize there were so many. There's more than 14 of them. 14 is kind of what I work with. That seems to be my
Range.
well, that just seems to be who's been assigned to me. You know,
Right.
it's like they're the ones that I work with on a regular basis. But there are more, and you know,
Can you
different.
name them, or can you
I
talk
don't.
about
I've
them,
never
or-
really put names to them. You know,
Right.
they each have a different
Character.
archetype,
Right,
and it's kind of easier to relate them to something we know,
right.
like lions or leopards or
Right.
tigers or domestic cats, or you know, the different personality traits of each of those cats. They sort of all have a different symbology. It's like the cougar, the mountain lion. The lioness is the goddess Tefnut,
Right.
and she's the goddess of wisdom, truth, and timing. So if you want to know the truth about what's going on and when it's going to happen, she's the one you want to talk to, you know, because she'll definitely give it to you.
And can anyone approach?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. A lot of this is the old Egyptian teachings of the different archetypal energies being different aspects of our own internal selves. And if we integrate all of that, we create a wholeness within ourselves. And so that's the whole idea, is to bring together the family, so to speak, internally, and create that sense of wholeness, so you have whatever tool you need, regardless of the circumstances, to do whatever needs to be done, whatever's wisest, you know.
So 7 trips to Egypt. Was there a reason for each trip, or was it just
Each
to go
trip had to
sightseeing?
do with astrological timing of shifts and changes that were going to be
Right.
happening on the planet. Each of the trips was laid out to go to specific sacred sites there to do specific energy work. We have another trip coming up in December from the 1st to the 15th of this year, which is 2012, that we'll be doing. And it's designed actually to be at the Giza Plateau for the new moon. The stars from the belt of Orion will be lining up with the 3 pyramids at that time on that new moon. And that's that major opening before the December 21st thing. So we'll be there for the new moon on the...
So I remember a while ago I was talking to you, and you said everyone's waiting for this 2012 thing, but the 2012 thing's already happened.
Yeah, it really has. It really has.
Can you speak about that?
You
a
know,
little bit?
well, you know, a lot of people, they were all excited about the 11-11-11, and I'm going, well, if you're a real numerologist and you understand numbers, November the 11th of 2011 was an 11-11-4 day. It wasn't an 11-11-11. Okay, the real 11-11-11 was November the 11th of 2009,
Right.
because 9 and 2 is 11. We were between the paws of the Sphinx for that and did some pretty powerful energy work. And our intention at that time was to go back the following spring.
So shouldn't we?
And that's kind of when everything sort of shifted over there. So we haven't gotten back.
So shouldn't we have already gone through the changes?
They're already happening. They've been happening since 1985, 86.
Wow.
The first galactic alignment, the first cosmic alignment actually began happening back then. We had a number of planets that lined up connecting with the center of our galaxy, which is a massive black hole. It's an interdimensional portal. And at that time, things began opening up. Lots of beings began coming in. Others began leaving. There was a lot of traffic back and forth, you know. And what's been happening is messages have been coming through, but people haven't been listening. And the universe is now going to be getting out the psychic 2x4s. So, or 4x8s if we're not careful. So they're going to be not so gentle in getting people's attention and saying, hey, look, there are changes taking place. And either you work with the changes.
Or you get hit by a 2x4.
You know, or you're going to be knocked out of the way. So choice is yours. Either participate or get out of the way.
Annihilate.
You know. So that's kind of where we're at this point. I mean, the Earth Mother, my sense is, and the messages I've been getting from her is that she's going through menopause. You know, so she's no longer willing to do all the giving and not getting anything back. You know, the indigenous people around the world know there's a reciprocity. There's a figure eight, there's a flow, there's a giving and a receiving. And we haven't been doing that for a very, very long time. We've been taking a lot from her, but we haven't been giving much back. Whether it's in ritual and ceremony or whether it's in other ways. That's got to change. Because women, when they go through menopause, if you've been around very many of them, they no longer want to give to people who are doing nothing but taking. They tend to want to have that flow. And if there isn't a flow, they'll go, see ya. So we're going to see areas of the planet where the Earth Mother is going to be withdrawing her nurturing, supportive energy if there's no nurturing, supportive energy being put back. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires.
And how do you advise that the people can put that energy back to the earth?
Better get in touch with where you're living and ask the Earth Mother what she needs. Ask what you can give for her. Ask what you can do for her rather than what you can take from her. Ask what you can put back. Ask how you can create that flow for yourself. Because instead of it being where we had separate cultural initiations and lots of different sacred spots all over the world, now the whole planet's sacred.
Right.
And every place has a sacred spot.
Right.
So we can all create sacred ground wherever we are. Whether it's on your coffee table at home, or out in your garden, or in the park down the street, everywhere.
And when did you start getting into astrology and numerology? Because
I got into the astrology and the numerology back in the mid-'70s. I'd always been able to do the psychic stuff, but getting timing was really challenging.
Oh.
And I wanted the timing of that left brain part of me is going, okay, you're giving me all this stuff, but sometimes it's 2 to 10 years,
Right.
you know, before it takes place. I'd like to be able to get an idea on the timing here, guys, so I'm not looking like a crazy person
Right.
putting this out there thinking it's going to happen within the next few months and it'd be 10 years down the road.
Right.
You know, because doing consulting with clients, they want to know what's coming up,
Now.
not what's happening 10 years from now.
And did that really?
Getting into the astrology helped. I work with the Koch house system because, or Koch as some people call it, because it's more detailed and you need the birth time to really be able to do it accurately. That's like your own personal map. It doesn't say what's going to happen. It gives potentials of doorways opening, opportunities presenting themselves, challenges presenting themselves. And if you're aware of that, you can work with those in a much, much easier way. So you can take advantage of the opportunities, play down the things that might be detrimental, and maybe not stick your foot in your mouth and create problems, you know, and make it more difficult. The idea is to kind of be able to know the map well enough to make it an easy transition and shift and growth rather than
Right.
hard. So we do have the option, do it the easy way or the hard way. It is free will choice, you know.
It is, absolutely. And when did Mary become a reverend and why?
That happened back in the 1987. Actually, I was talked into it, to be honest. I didn't really want that title.
Right.
You know, I mean, I had people try to talk me into going to a PhD in psychology and doing all of that. And, than the minister stuff. And it was like, titles don't mean a lot to me. It's, are you genuine? Are you honest? Are you in your integrity? Are you speaking your truth?
Right.
And that was more what I always looked for. But what happened was I came across an organization called Alliance of Divine Love that their whole purpose is to connect people to their path, to the heart, and help them find that path, whatever it may be, regardless of what religious title happens to be put on it.
Right.
And so they're very ecumenical. And it gave me freedom to be able to do my healing, my teaching, that kind of thing, with that as a background behind it, so that people couldn't say, okay, you're just making up crazy stories. You're just a crazy lady, crazy cat lady. So I felt like it was a positive thing. And they were willing to let me be myself and still be a minister.
Right.
So, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, and also too, I believe in a lot of the ethics that they portray, which is being honest and being in your integrity,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping client confidence and that kind of thing.
Right.
So they even asked me and talked me into becoming a teacher, so I can actually ordain and teach classes in Alliance of Divine Love now too. So another
And
hat
you taught
that I wear.
for a while? You taught for a while?
I'm still doing
You're still
classes,
doing classes.
so I've got ongoing classes. It takes about a year to take the first level, and then if you want to go for the PhD, you have the option of another 3 years. So,
Now,
yeah.
Mary, you're an author.
Yep.
Tell us about your book and what brought that into
Well, I've
reality.
actually written several. One deals with, specifically with the cat beings. Each of them is stuff that have been channeled through the cat beings. There's a book on astrology. It's karmic galactic astrology. There's also one on dealing with wisdom, truth, and timing. And it's the Teflon energy. And it's little things that you can do, little tools, techniques that you can use to empower yourself to really help you get on your path a
Would
little
you give
easier.
us an example of a tool?
One of the easiest ones is the cord cutting process. Cutting the cords of fear and nurturing the cords of love, and learning how to do that, and setting up a fishnet filter around yourself to be able to, neutralize the fear that's there. Because right now that seems to be rampant on the planet.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the Sekhmet energy. Sekhmet's kind of the Black Panther goddess that kind of gets in your face and says, okay, we're going to look at the truth here. We're going to clean out what we need to clean out and let go of the limitations and the fears and the attachments, and bring in, the love and the harmony, and put that in its place.
So if fear left the planet, would the Earth and its changes
They'd be a
halt?
whole lot easier. A whole lot easier.
Right.
The majority of what's here that is the fear stuff, I believe, is based on memory of earth changes from, there was
previous
some in
generations.
6,000 years ago, there was some 12,000 years
Right.
ago, there's some that's been older than that.
That's
and
in
this
our
soul,
genetic imprint.
yeah, it's it's in the cellular DNA, so there's a memory of that. So there's this generalized fear that people are walking around with that gets activated, and they look for a place to stick it. And if enough people look for a place to stick it, it'll coalesce into something,
Right.
creating situations like what happened in 9/11. All of that was a series of circumstances that fell into place that could have easily had the plug pulled on it had that energy not coalesced. So most of us now that are doing earth energy work are really looking for ways to dissipate the fear energy so it doesn't coalesce into a big, bad, ugly thing, and somebody then act it out. Because that's what happens, If we don't own our own fear, our own doo-doo caca, and we project it out there in the world, somebody's going to take it on for us to transmute it and deal with it. So my sense is that if we each dealt with our own battle of Armageddon inside, then we wouldn't have to put it out there in the world for it to happen. And the earth changes would be a whole lot easier.
Changes would be a lot easier.
Yep. Once again, though, humanity's got the choice. Do it the easy way, do it the hard way. It's going to get done. Choice is theirs. So,
I want you to tell the audience about something you often talk to me about, and that's the blue lotuses,
yes.
which I think is a passion and a love.
It is, very much so. The Egyptian blue lotuses that were here on the planet were prolific throughout the temple sites. All of the ponds and all of the temples throughout Egypt had them growing wild in them. And they're phenomenal to be around. They they come out of the mud as the sun is rising, and they gradually open to the sun, to the warmth of the love of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And they expect nothing, they want nothing, they just want to be and express their love. And the scent of them and the feel of them, the experience of them is pure love. It's that heart energy. It's very cosmic. I do not believe the blue lotuses are from here. I believe they're from off-world. I believe they were brought through.
There was such a thing as blue lotuses.
Yeah. Oh, they're phenomenal. They've tested the energy vibrationally on a lot of the other lotuses, but the blue is so far off the scale they can't even test it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty phenomenal. We now have a pond and property in Egypt where we're growing the blue lotuses again. They had become extinct. The Romans, in their desire to break down the culture in Egypt, brought in fish that would eat the bulbs and kill them. So that most of them are only found down in the Sudan, and there are very few of them left. So what we've been trying to do is to get funding put together to buy a couple of places to be able to build the ponds and have them grow. We started out with one bulb. We now have, well, I think the last count was 24 blooms. So, and that's in a couple of years. It's pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah. But they're phenomenal just to be around. They just are so loving.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures. They're pretty beautiful.
Yeah, they're pretty phenomenal.
Mary, you consider yourself an oracle,
Mm-hmm.
which implies you prophecy or you channel channel information of what's to occur. Can you share a little bit about where someone would get that information?
For me, I'm very picky about making sure that what I bring through is truth with a capital T.
Right.
A capital R-U-T-H. I'm very picky about that, and I'm looking at it in terms of truth on a bigger scale, on a more cosmic scale, not just for one culture, one country, one part of the world, but for the whole globe. Because the reality is we're all connected and we're all in this together, and until we get that and start working like that, it's going to be a challenge. You know, we make it a lot harder than it needs to be. Really do.
We can, right?
So my sense is, we don't need to do the meta-fuzzy bliss-any thing, and just everything's rose-colored glasses. You need to deal with the reality of what's going on. But to deal with it from a place of, okay, these are the facts, what do we need to do to shift and change that reality that we've created? Because if you don't like the reality you've created, you need to change it and create something else.
I want to go back to Egypt.
Okay.
Over the 7 years, there must have been changes you recognize in Egypt.
Yes, big time.
Can you speak a little bit about the historical changes that occurred?
Well, the first
energetic changes that occurred?
the first trip that I made in '86 was pretty phenomenal. I mean, it was just everything was very open. Tourism was really high. Large numbers of groups that were coming through all the time. We were taking groups of 40 to 60 people at a time at that time, because everybody wanted to go to Egypt. And then as we moved more into closer to 1990 and then right up to around 1996, the last major group that I took over there was in '96, and it had gotten to the point where we had to have an armed escort to go to Dendera and Abydos.
Wow.
Because there had been episodes of tourists being fired upon.
Wow.
And buses being blown up and this kind of thing. The next time that I went, in 98, 99, Dr. Zahid Hawass, who is a personal friend of mine, had taken and done a lot of work, taking a lot of the raw alabaster that was being mined that were just chips that they had been throwing away, and began putting it around areas in the different temple sites where people didn't walk. So it was just there for decoration to kind of keep the dust down, was his thinking. Well, as it turned out, what it did was energize the temples. And so it's like, okay, Sahi, you're doing the right thing. You may not know why, but you're doing the right thing. So it was really a good thing. He, without realizing it, I think, made a big impact on changing a lot of what was done over there, and a lot of research, a lot of excavation that most people have no clue about.
Right.
That he was responsible for doing. A lot of things being returned to the country. So there's a lot more stuff available there now. With the turnover of what has happened, like I said, we were there in just a few years ago, and in 2009, and it was really phenomenal. Everybody was friendly, everybody was loving, everybody was helpful. We were able to go into a lot of temple sites that tourists don't normally get to go to. And it was really good. I mean, we were able to get between the paws of the Sphinx. Now, with the upheaval, it's hard to know who to even talk to get permission to do anything.
Wow.
So it's a bit more of a challenge to go over there. And if you go as a group, there's no real guarantee of what's going to happen, It's one of those things where in some cases, you're paying the military to get into places. You shouldn't really have to be doing that. So,
Any extraordinary experiences over the years?
oh, some pretty powerful ones. One of my favorite was, one of my favorites was the time that we spent in Sekhmet's temple. We had gone to Karnak Temple, which is one of the huge complex sites in Luxor. Luxor is my favorite area, both East and West Bank. So it's that's the heart of the country, so to speak. So it's my heart, But what we did was we took the group to the Sekhmet Temple. The particular temple has 3 statues in it. There's a statue of Sekhmet, a statue of Ptah, and a statue of Nefertim, which was their son. And they're each in separate chambers. But the statue of Sekhmet, this one is an unusual one. She's standing rather than seated. And she is carrying a lotus staff and an ankh. And one of the things that happens when you stand in front of her and look into her eyes, if you ask a question of a yes or no nature, she will give you an answer. Mm-hmm. Because literally looking into her eyes, it's like she's looking back. And it's like she's asking, are you ready to see the truth? Are you ready to know the secrets? What are you hiding from yourself that you really need to know? So she'll search out whatever your fear is, multiply it, and magnify it back to you.
Multiply
for you to it? So that you can look at it.
Right.
Yeah, so it can be a little scary. It can be a little scary. But because I had such a connection with her, and I really go for that truth aspect, connecting with her, what it did was show me a lot of past lives and interconnections of people and places and things in my life at that time, and it was quite an eye-opener.
Showed you how you had visions?
Well, it showed me visions of who I had been, what I had done,
Wow.
who the people were in my current life that were connected to some of that, and what role I was here to play at this point in time. Part of that was dealing with working with the Earth's crystal grid, which is something that I've been doing probably all my life without really knowing it, but consciously began doing it. When was it? I guess I started doing that back in 1986, 85, 86, when that first cosmic connection happened. We've had that major cosmic alignment with the Galactic Center again, and it completes itself December 21st, 2012. So, and the aperture, so to speak, of that black hole is going to start closing back down again. So,
and is there scientific consistency with this?
Yeah, there is. There's been a lot of talk about black holes. The scientists don't like to talk about it being an interdimensional portal.
Of course.
But it is,
But it is.
They think it just sucks all the light in, but what they're discovering is that that's not the case anymore. They're realizing that things do come and go through that black hole.
They go in and out, yeah.
So,
Fascinating.
But the center of our galaxy has quite a large one. But there is the supergalactic center that's even bigger, which our galaxy and hundreds of others revolves around. And so because of that energy, that midpoint between that is the Scorpio point of Avatar, which is 13 degrees, 37 minutes of Scorpio. The corresponding opposite of that, of course, is the Taurus point of Avatar at the same degree in Taurus. Then you have the one in Aquarius and the one in Leo. This aligns with the Sphinx
Oh, wow.
and the opening of the Sphinx. and a lot of the knowledge and wisdom and truth that's going to be coming back out. Because literally humanity is now where it had been behind the Sphinx and beside the Sphinx. Now it's in front of the Sphinx, looking into its eyes. And she's asking, are you ready to know the mystery of the truth of why you're really here? Can you answer the riddle of why you're here? And if humanity can't,
You're going back to the back of the Sphinx?
yeah. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
So can we look forward to you doing readings here again and workshops here again in the
Sure.
near future?
Sure.
In the coming months?
Yep. I don't know how soon, but probably by this fall, I'm thinking.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay,
Wonderful. We
good.
look forward to it. Is there anything
Yep.
you want to share with the audience that I might have missed or forgotten?
No, just come to Astral. It's fun.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.